All right, so we're sitting across from a beautiful, beautiful man, Radio Land. We wish this was on video.
Oh, you
I'm
flatter me,
sitting
man.
with Brandon. Sitting with Brandon King. We met when he was going to MUN. Then he pursued education through MI and is he got a diploma in ROV technician.
Yeah.
And just graduated. Or just found out your marks like a couple days ago?
Today, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
How'd you do?
Pulled out an 80 average out of the semester. It's good.
Oh, there it is.
It's all right. I'll take
So is that it? Are you done now? You graduated?
I got a month of training. Gonna do some offshore training, safety things, BST. Other than that, we're good.
Yeah,
Nice.
and we met.
And a work term.
We met basically through some little affair I was involved in a couple of years ago, and we continued to. I had to keep running into this guy every time I went to a damn CFS event, and Brandon serves on his own board for MI. So thanks for coming on today, dude.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brandon. And nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess first up, like I said, this is the first time I'm meeting Brandon, so I really only know what I've heard from Max. And you know, Max is really he's really been playing you up. I feel like I was kind of getting into a lot of the same stuff that Max tells me you're into as far as politics goes. So I've been excited to meet you for a while now.
And so Brandon and I met through when I was kicking up shit about the Occupy Wall Street movement, and I was just a crazy idiot at that point walking around MUN, but yet he approached me. So why did you decide to do that?
Well, I mean, really, it was, I'd heard about the Occupy movement, and a lot of the things that they were talking about initially were things that I had been listening to from people before, such as Michael Rupert and Aaron Russo, and there's a few other great guys. I'm not going to name them all off, but Michael Rupert's the most important guy, I think. Yeah, he died about 4 days ago, I think. Great man. Anyway, yeah, so I met Max, and I seen that he had a little Occupy NL flag, and I thought, okay, great. Let's go talk to these guys, let's just see what they're into. And I remember talking to him, and I don't remember exactly what it was Max said, but I think it was something about how he said we should raise taxes on the rich and lower taxes on the poor, and that's how we would solve the deficit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something like that, I think.
Yeah, my socialist angst.
Yeah, and then I think that was when I got into the topic. I said, well, Max, what is money? What is money? Why do we pay taxes to begin with?
I was confused about what you meant by something like that.
Right. And so, we started talking about the axis of evil as it is, as far as money goes. That is fiat currency, fractional reserve banking, and compound interest. Essentially it goes like this. If I'm the banker, you three guys in the room here, let's do it up. Max, I'm going to give you $10, all right? But I'm going to give it to you on interest. So you can print that money, and you can do whatever you want with it, but you got to pay me 11. But you can't. You can't do it. So you can take your $10 and you can do whatever you want with it. But at the end of the day, you say, oh, I can't get it. But that's okay, because I'm going to lend you another $10. And now you've got 19, and you only owe me, 2. Well, that's not so bad. But it just keeps going and going and going. But you think you're getting more and more money. But really, what you're doing is you're deflating, your currency.
And we basically talked about how this system of perpetual kind of unaccounted for debt is kind of presupposes any problem I could manifest.
Well, yes, and that's really only half of it, because we finished the conversation then with saying, okay, well, what really is debt? And what it comes down to is when you create money, essentially what you're doing is you're creating a ticket for energy, more or less. It is energy that drives population growth. It's what gives us food, it's what gives us transportation, it's what gives us modern agricultural, fishing methods, space exploration, you name it. If we didn't have technology, we wouldn't have if we didn't have energy, we wouldn't have technology, we wouldn't have the population growth that we have now. So we need money to do these things as well. But it all comes from energy. So you can only print so much money as you have energy. That really is how it amounts to the way our current system is, because the growth, infinite growth paradigm is how Michael Rupert described it. And essentially what it means is that the way we're going, we need everything that's on the earth and more to keep this going, because of the nature of interest and the nature of the relationship between money and energy. They really are extremely interconnected, and I can't explain it as well as he can. And guys, I'm not going to lie, I didn't exactly do my homework before I came on. I had to work all day. I had to jam. I didn't have a whole lot of time.
I think we're talking about the somehow using finite resources.
Yeah.
Or using or using finite resources in the pursuit of kind of like infinite resources, and it's almost cyclical. It's like chicken and the egg.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, the Earth has a carrying capacity. There are certain limitations through science. I mean, we got biology, carrying capacity of the Earth, and a lot of that has to do, and it's completely tied into, the law of thermodynamics. And our money is the same way. I mean, it only goes up or down, right?
So Brandon, now how was it that you got so into? I mean, you said kind of some of your influences, but what, I guess kind of what was like almost like the seminal event that sort of really got you started on this whole path of, well, being like a kind of a genius about the stuff that you're talking about, I guess, is sort of the
kind of like
direction
in the nurture aspect of how you were brought up and your environment around you. What would make you, out of any random person from where you're from, kind of take on this kind of subject matter and outlook?
You humbled me, and I'll quote Michael Rupert again. Don't put me up on a cross, asshole. We need the lumber. Okay. But yeah, I think what really got me into this was I had been listening to this crazy radio conspiracy nut job. I actually, I was on the internet, and it was on a forum, and they were making fun of this guy. They were calling into a show and prank calling him, and I was like, well, I'm not going to prank call him, but I'm going to listen to it. And he was talking about some stuff that was definitely wild and out there, but he was talking about how there was a big economic collapse coming this summer. This was in 2008.
Okay.
Right? Now, this was the spring of 2008, and he explained about, the derivatives bubble.
That's when we were like 16, 17, 18.
It was right before the recession is the idea.
Yeah. I guess so. I would have been around 17 then, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, 16, 17, and around then, that's when it all went down. And so I kind of said, okay, well, this crazy nut job might have been onto some things. So I kind of looked into what he was doing. And what I found at first was the information is extremely overwhelming. I mean, you can burn yourself out very easily looking into this stuff because it's so wild and out there. And the analogy I used to use was, and pardon my language on the radio, but you had to wade through the shit and pick out the nuggets of corn. And that was your information, because there's a lot of crap out there. There is. But there's some great stuff out there that's well backed up, that's researched, that has documentation. I mean, that's essentially what I'm saying. Something that's tangible and proof. I mean, government records, bank records, FBI records, evidence, public documents, court cases. These things are irrefutable evidence. And when they put them together in such a way to explain things like insider trading that, was known about by several, members of Congress, the Nicaraguan Contra gun scandal, and the cocaine that Gary Webb wrote about in his what was the name of that saga? I think it was a Dark Saga or something like that. Gary Webb wrote it. But, yeah, look it up. Again, I didn't do my homework, but...
No, that's all.
I think I'm getting off topic, but I mean, that's kind of what got me into it. And I started looking into all these things, and what I really learned was, and Michael Rupert got me onto it, is to get away from the crazy stuff and look on the people that can prove what they're saying. And what I found is really money is the true essence of what a lot of people try to change in other ways, such as raising taxes on the rich to help feed the poor or whatever. But really, it comes down to energy, supporting population that is represented with paper currency.
And the reason why I like asking that question as to how you become something is because, like you say, it's an overwhelming amount of knowledge to take on, and for somebody who's just wants to get their feet wet, how do they pursue this knowledge without being overwhelmed or being considered a martyr or being considered some kind of being alienated or outcasted? If it's something that's that important, it's commonly regarded, almost publicly regarded, as something that's almost a little bit too radical and out to lunch. So I think it's important to contextualize how somebody gets involved in it. And I mean, you are a crazy person, and you're unpredictable and wild, but can anybody kind of have access to this information, or do you need to be a little bit nuts?
No, not at all. I mean, the information is out there if you know where to look, or you have someone showing you. Max, you're guilty of it too. I mean, if you meet somebody that don't know what's up, you'll tell them what's up, and you'll tell them where to go to look it up. I'm calling you out on this, But it's important. I mean, if people usually ask me things, I'll just say straight up, do you want to read a book or do you want to watch the movie first?
Yeah.
And depending on what they say, I'll give them a book or I'll give them a movie. I mean, if I'm going to give them a book, I say, well, Crossing the Rubicon or Collapse by Michael Rupert. Start there. Just start there and look up his references and then go through those. Because, I mean, he's my favorite guy. All right, he's my, my Sidney Crosby. As far as we'll call him the Sidney Crosby, the conspiracy world, but it's definitely not conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy fact, if anything, because it's backed up stuff. You should read these books.
Cool.
He also has a documentary called Collapse, that you can actually go up on Google Video. It'll show up right there. It's great.
We're going to put this in our YouTube links.
Yeah, we'll put all these things on in the YouTube links, these references. So
now Mac's got to put some in too.
All right, we'll do
Absolutely.
it. We'll do it.
Did you watch that Vice video with Mike Rupert? He's a 4-part series on Vice News. That's good shit.
No, I heard about it. I meant to watch it, and I haven't gotten around to it.
It's well done.
Yeah, I bet it is. I bet it is.
All right, now, Brandon, one thing I want to ask you that we actually weren't necessarily planning on asking you, but we just kind of thought of it. There was this study that came out. You may have seen it, you may not have. If you haven't, then we'll just move on to something else. It was this, like a scientific study or whatever, that basically says that the U.S. government now is an oligarchy and not a democracy. Did you read that, and could you speak to it at all?
For our listeners, oligarchy meaning like controlled by money and power.
And the elite, a very
elite,
structured,
kind of aristocratic or whatever.
tiered elite system.
How
you know,
shocked are you?
You know, I think it's important to deal with fact. That's for sure. I haven't read this study. I don't know.
Yeah, I shouldn't say I've read the study. I would almost go so far as to say I've only read the headline.
Okay. So, without commenting on a study that apparently probably only Max has read.
I don't know. Have you read the study, or have you read the article
All I know is
about
that
the
two
study?
different people conducted the same study and found the same research.
Yeah, and I don't think that would surprise me, but I don't think the United States would be the only country you could see that.
It's fair.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think the important thing to take away from this too is that, you know, the general acceptance among people is that there's nothing wrong with our system. There's nothing wrong with the way we live. Everything we do is fine. We get along just fine. We go to work. We get up, pay our bills, have a happy life, and retire. It's great. It is. But, you know, I mean, if you want to think about the long-term sustainability of your species, that's a different type of governance. And it's a different type of, it's a different paradigm. It really is, I think. It's one that we don't have right now, in my opinion.
So as far as governance concerned, let me just ask, for example, who was your candidate for the Virginia Waters election?
God.
Is that your district?
No, it's not. And maybe I shouldn't comment on it, but I was... I'm not going to comment on it.
And more implicitly, do you have a particular political affiliation yourself, or are you just?
No, I think I'm a political mutt. I mean, you know, I will support the idea more so than the party.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing too is when it comes to money, I like how libertarians think. When it comes to social welfare, I tend to like how the New Democrats think, but then I like to combine it with how the libertarians think so you can actually pay for it. You know, so. Yeah, you know, I think there's a lot of people that are kind of like that too, basically, from what you get online and what you see in books that are being written by well-respected people. Aaron Russo said it best in his book, From Freedom to Fascism, which is a very radical-sounding title, but actually a very well-researched and very interesting documentary. I recommend you look that up if you get a chance. But you know, he kind of put it best and said that, you know, these people aren't kooks. These are people that are up on their stuff and they've read it and they know it and they've spent their lives researching it and they don't have tinfoil hats and live in basements. And I think that's it's kind of a stereotype, and there's definitely those types out there. There's no doubt about it. But I don't, you know, I think when you start talking about these things, people are conditioned to automatically assume you're nuts.
I was just gonna say every
Yeah,
time you got to address that there's potentially a tinfoil hat crazy person out there, you gotta address it.
Yeah.
Dilutes your message.
Yeah, it's like I feel. I mean, not almost. I read The Fountainhead, and then I read Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand, and I was like, I love libertarianism, man. This is the greatest thing in the world. And I feel like I've chilled a little bit, but I still. It's kind of my like favorite of the ideologies, but I feel like it gets a bad rap. I feel like a lot of people hear the word libertarian and they think of it almost as like a dirty word. So do you maybe want to clear up some of the misconceptions, give like a little, kind of like an overview
From your understanding
of it and your perspective on it?
Oh, this is going to sound like such a hippy-dippy answer. I think the beauty of libertarianism is that really you can identify however you want to as a libertarian. I mean, you know, there's a lot of disagreement in libertarian forums and even libertarian parties about how to govern, usually. I mean, you know, generally it's an accepted fact that they want to maximize the personal liberty and freedom that a person has, but at the same time, you know, you just because you own a piece of land doesn't mean you can dump 20 gallons of oil in the ground and bury it over and say, what spill?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, these are conflicts that need to be addressed. Like, yeah, you should have all the liberty you want. You should own the land. You should have the rights to it, but you should also have the respect for it. And I think that's again, it comes to paradigm. It comes to how, you know, we think about the earth and how we think about ourselves on it, and see ourselves more as guests instead of masters, because, you know, this is our house. You know, you can't just chip away at the walls and expect the roof to stay up. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, in many respects, especially in, you know, in rainforest areas, and that's as far as I'll go with it.
And can you give us some examples of, I mean, you talked about how you can, that you take on a bunch of different ideologies, and I think a dominant, the dominant ideology when you and I talk anyways, maybe it's just because you're humoring me, is we talk a lot about libertarianism, but at the same time, another thing that you and I talk about particularly a lot is post-secondary education and public education, and I wonder how that ties into your kind of conception of governance and what role governance has in public education.
Yeah, no, and this is where I may defer on many areas, but, you know, I firmly believe that education, and this has been studied and it's been researched, Max, you're well aware of the same studies that I've read, you know, it is an investment that sees return on profit. Even when programs might not necessarily see a return on profit on certain degrees, overall the system does see a return on profit. We quote that study that was done on College of North Atlantic. They, you know, every dollar they put in, provincial government's seen $11.50 return over 5 years. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. There's no reason you should pay tuition if that's what you're going to get back.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
it's
the
a worthwhile investment for the government to make.
The whole province benefits from it because, I mean, you got to remember, the province has the power of taxation. If they're the ones that want to levy the tax against, you know, any kind of labor or earnings or income or whatever the case may be, we won't get into the legal and lawful stuff, but essentially the money that they're going to get from people that have better education and better jobs is way better than having them not be, not afford to go to school, you know, being a, you know, I won't say being a burden, but you know, definitely increasing the load on EI and other social assistance programs from people that just don't have the work because they don't have the education, not the skills. I mean, I come from a pretty small town. There's a lot of people that I know of that they're mechanics. They don't have their papers. I mean, they can fix anything. They can fix a lot of cars. They can do a lot of work. It'd be really easy for them to go into school and get their papers. They can't afford it.
Right.
You know, and that's a problem, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you know, here, you know, you got people working at gas stations for $12 an hour or $10 an hour, and they could be out working at a garage somewhere. They just can't afford to go to school to get it done, even though they're capable of doing the work. You know?
Right. Definitely. That's a really interesting take on it for sure. So Max, what else do we want to ask Brandon before we take our extremely late second break?
Oh yeah, we were supposed to take
a break about 20 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, this is like scheduled, like the radio needs you, like it requires you to take these like scheduled 10-20 minute increments.
Sounds like Weekend of Skills.
But we libertarian up in here. We do our
we're exercising our freedoms.
It's our
tonight.
time. We'll do what we like with it.
We're keeping it thematic.
By not this is a good example here. By not going to commercial break, are we being legal or lawful or unlawful or illegal?
We're being against the rules of CHMR and the requirements.
Well, actually, it would be illegal because CHMR, I would imagine, is registered as a corporation, and if you're registered as a corporation, then you are fully subject to all legislation, statutes, and what we would call the law, but that would be, you know, legislation.
Well, then that sounds
Should
like
we go to break?
We better take our break,
and then we'll come back and say hi to Brennan just for like another 2 minutes, and then go to our last.
And then we'll kind of say the rest of our thank yous
and final farewells
our
to our
final
loyal
farewells
CHMR listeners
for the summer. So
very loyal.
Settle down out there. You're crazy.
Stop cursing at me through your radio.
Tune back in a minute. Big Brothers Big Sisters is hiring a full-time teen mentoring / match support coordinator. Must have a minimum 2-year post-secondary diploma or coursework in education, social or human services, child and youth work, or a related field. Send a resume, cover letter, and references to the Executive Director, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Village Shopping Center, Box 10, 430 Topsail Road, St. John's, Newfoundland, A1E 4N1. The deadline to apply is April 25th, 2014.
via MP3 stream or real audio at www.chmr.ca. You're tuned to Mon Radio, CHMR 93.5 FM, your only music alternative.
And we're back on Wrestling Pages with Max and Chris and Brandon King.
Sorry for the ad suspense. We finally got that on the air.
It's fine. It keeps it fresh.
So we're still here with Mr. King. We're going to ask you another question or two, just kind of open-ended stuff. And then we're going to go to our last 5 minutes, because this show is about us, not you guys.
Yeah, we've been a little too heavy on the outsiders lately. It used to be just us. We've been about 10 minutes talking to people that aren't us, and now it's all about them, and I think something needs to change.
Here's my question to you on the spot. A lot of people get to listen to this question beforehand and think of something, but if you knew that if for some reason you had a voice that could reach every single person in this entire world right now, you had an opportunity to say like a sentence or two to these people, a message that you want to get across to everyone in the entire world, what would you tell them?
Do unto others. Straight up. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, man. Golden rule. That is probably the most important thing you could tell the whole world at one time.
And it's been time tested.
What else could you say to that, I guess? I don't know.
It is time tested.
You know what? And that's a pretty kind of not profound answer, because it's been said before, but I mean, it's that phrase exists, but you're the first person to say it on our show, and you're first to answer that question that way, and I really like that.
Yeah,
actually.
no, I like that too. It's an oldie but a goodie. They're classics for a reason, because they hold the test of time.
Yeah, and if I had one message, I'd say, take responsibility for yourself. Are you a maker or a taker? That's what I say.
Yeah, is it?
What would you say, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say something like life is what you make it. You should take, not in such a cynical way as you would say it, but life is what you make it. Your life is what you make it. You do that.
If life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Or if life doesn't give you lemons to make lemonade, then earn some lemons and make some lemonade.
Yeah.
Get your lemons. Don't wait for life to give you the lemons. Get your lemons.
You get yours.
You get your lemons, people of the world.
So, if you have any feedback for Wrestling Pages, 93.5 CHMR-FM, please contact us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or through...
We don't have Instagram, that's a lie.
And an email.
Yep, wrestlingpages@gmail.com. That is our email.
And don't all comment at once.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to get to all of your answers every week, but we try our damnedest.
Yeah, we do. Well, no, we don't get questions.
Ever.
But if we did, we would respond to them all the time. So, I don't know, are we gonna do our little goodbyes now? Or are we gonna say thank you to Brandon?
Goodbye. Or do you mean like goodbyes to the radio
Well, I mean like we're gonna say things and then the show is gonna end.
Okay. So, Brandon, thanks for coming. Let's actually give Brandon a last word here.
Yeah, Brandon, you
get your last word.
Your last word.
Because we kind of just got all self-indulged there, and
Yeah.
you're still on the air with us. So, Brandon came on the show to talk about, what do we talk about? Just
personal freedom, personal responsibility.
And be my old homie, and just because he graduated, this is a little graduation celebration. It's better than any convocation Mun could ever put out for you.
Raise the roof.
roof.
The roof is on fire.
So, Brandon, thanks for coming on the show, and is there anything that you want to plug or capture before we go our separate ways?
I really don't think so. I think we pretty much touched on a lot of things, but this is a topic that is, can't be condensed into a 20-minute conversation from one guy on a radio show at a university.
True.
It is a very, very huge, complicated topic, and if I said I was an expert, I'd be lying to you. There's a lot I got to learn. There's a lot I got to read up on. There's a lot of stuff I still, want to finish looking into, but I think the most part, just live your life, keep calm. A lot of people say keep calm, carry on. Well, do it. When the lights go out, do it, because they're going to go out again. It's going to happen. Just be prepared, live your life, be happy. That's it, man. Peace, love, freedom.
I like that.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Cool.